Hi, Peter Hayden here, and I help guide organizations in unlocking the potential of data, analytics, and AI within the Microsoft ecosystem. And in today's video, I wanted to just talk a bit about a question, is learning Power BI good for my career? And it really depends, on a range of things. I want to take you through, I guess, a bit about where Power BI is headed inside of the use of data visualization. Look at, I guess, some statistics around where jobs are at, have been over the last few years, and then look at some of the ways you can go forward in learning more about Power BI. Now, if you're in the data field, you're a data analyst, data engineer, it's going to make a lot of sense just to potentially look at Power BI in more detail. But if you're in marketing, accounting, financial services, you need to work with data regularly, you might use Excel a lot, you want to be able to visualize and convey information, then absolutely Power BI is something worth considering. And we'll talk about somewhere those skills, what skills you want to develop and why it's relevant. But first of all, I think as a product, as a solution, Power BI has gained tremendous momentum in the market. And if you're not familiar with a Gartner Magic Quadrant, a Gartner Magic Quadrant every year, generally, on a range of technologies. In this particular case, it's business intelligence and analytics platforms. So that's how we visualize information. They look at a range of vendor products in the market. And this is from 2016. They look at, there's 4 quadrants, hence the name Magic Quadrant. On the vertical, we look at the ability to execute, so actually be able to deliver on a product, and a completeness of vision, so how well they've set out to do. They've really completed a product that typically works really well. And the leaders across any product, generally, is the space where is the market leaders. That's its name. And the other quadrants have other names. You can see there, challengers, niche players, and visionaries that have different attributes and properties. So you're saying that anything in the niche player, the opposite to leaders is bad, it just might have particular use cases relevant for some organizations. That's okay. But generally, when we're talking about Power BI, it is for a general sort of purpose use of bringing data together. And I should use a different color. Microsoft is in that leaders quadrant with the 2 other products, Tableau and Qlik, and that was in 2016. So with that in mind, we can see there's a small number of players, maybe haven't got quite the ability to execute compared to Tableau and Qlik, but more completeness of vision in the leaders quadrant. Let's fast forward a couple of years, and this was actually from a presentation I did with a customer in 2021, looking at current back 5 years to then, and Microsoft is well ahead in that ability to execute. So they've gotten a lot stronger, and you can still see those other 2 products, Tableau and Qlik, haven't moved as much in terms of up in that vertical and horizontal, but still in the leaders quadrant, and there's other products have had a shift. And then we look at 2024, which got released in June 2024. And there's a few more players now, but you can still see Microsoft, and this is really that Power BI suite, coupled with Microsoft Fabric, as still away from the pack. And you've seen some other products come in there. In the time being, Salesforce has bought Tableau. Tableau is still a well-used product, but Google, Oracle, and ThoughtSpot have now entered the leaders market. So if you think about Power BI and its usage, and you're maybe using Microsoft products today in your organization, then very much so it's worthwhile to think about using Power BI for your work. So I just want to take a moment to then talk about what's the jobs prospect. I'll come back to this in a moment. Just move him out of the way and just talk about the jobs for the moment. And so in Australia, Seek is one of the job boards, much like in most parts of the world. And I was looking in June 2021 again, just to help inform a customer about what's the skills market like. It's a good indication of available jobs for a region and for a skill to look at. If there's demand for it, it usually indicates there's skills available to fulfill that. Certainly been my experience. And so in Queensland and Australia, we had 405 jobs on a particular day in June 2021. And I just had a look today, and we're in July 2024, so 3 years and a month on, and there are now 519 jobs with the same parameter. Now, what's interesting about that, and if you could do this comparison against back in time, is other regions, you may see very similar results. It certainly hasn't gone down, so it has increased. But of that 519, about half are in the IT sort of category, which is not surprising, right? Like job boards, you have different sort of industries, and about half is in IT. But there's also about half across a mix of categories of non-IT. And so those include industries like accounting, insurance, government, financial services, manufacturing, mining, and marketing. And then others, but they had a dozen or so or more jobs in each of those categories. So no longer is Power BI traditional data analyst, necessarily a IT specific tool. It's absolutely a business tool that is being adopted and used by business users outside of that traditional IT. And because data is used across the organization, it makes absolute sense, should be embraced and used in the way you work, just much like you probably use things like Excel to manage and bring data together right today. Now, the other thing to think about, so that was a Power BI in a certain region in Australia, Queensland, Australia. I want to look at, this is a diagram from Australian government, the Jobs and Skills Australia, and there's this tool. I'll put this link in the notes, the video, but this tool gives you an indication of where there are current or future shortages with respect to skill sets. And so it's an interesting little tool to think about. Using it for my son at the moment to help guide him what he might want to think about, where there might be some potential opportunities. But if I look at data, and particularly just data analyst, and I'll zoom in a little bit so it makes it a bit clearer. The data analyst here, there's a couple of things here so I'll call out. First is this blue mark here against data analyst. It means the future demand is above the economy-wide average. There is going to be future growth in order to have data analyst skills. So whether you're a dedicated data analyst or it forms part of another role, there is future demand and growth in this sector. And you can see where there's, it's above us here just by the filter of data, but you can use this to look around other areas as well. Data science is another area I won't delve into today, but you can see there's future growth there too, even database administration. The other thing this little tool shows us is the shortages. So at the moment, nationally, there is no shortage for these skills, but we're starting to see, look, there's some shortages in 2 states in Australia. Click on this arrow for it to include a screen snip that shows you previous year compared to the last 2 years. So in 2023, these 2 shortages have emerged in New South Wales and South Australia, but there's no shortages of previous years. So some of those gaps are certainly coming to bear. So if you're thinking about, look, even if it's not Power BI, but even everyone works more and more with data. The AI will become part of that as we need to then think about how data is used and prepared and made available. So again, highly relevant. Think about, do you build skills around data analysis? And the last thing I want to talk to you about is, what are those pathways? So there's a a set of learning opportunities, especially on Microsoft.com. Again, I'll put a link into here. This is where they training paths that you can use to look at, and I'm going to highlight this one down here. The data analyst is the one to have a look at, which takes you through the path of how do I build skills, particularly if you are not an IT person and you have a need to bring data together and visualize and tell a story with your data, convey information. This is probably a good path to explore, understand a bit more. Not only is there online tools to learn, you can then obtain certification if you feel like it, which is, again, another way to show that you've attained the right skills. And that's really good for whether you're IT or non-IT. So if you're a business user, information worker, perfect way to expand your skill sets, part of your career. I will highlight a few other things on here that may be of interest. If you're maybe more on the technical side, you work with data more, then certainly the data engineering around the actual pulling data out of systems and creating data models, that could be of interest. If you want to then go, how do I forecast, predict, and detect information, then and use that in my organization, then data science could be the way to go. And the emerging areas around AI engineering as well. So how do we use the tools to be able to transform business processes, for example, and inject AI for what we do. So again, that data analyst is a good way to explore that and allow you to then potentially uncover how to use Power BI in your organization, build some skills, and look at how you could take those skills, if you're in, say, the marketing sector or financial services, to really elevate how you use understand data, and maybe then lead into something more technical, IT, or maybe consulting around help other organizations leverage their data too. So could be an interesting way to think about that tool you use to simplify your need to wrangle spreadsheets to build reports, to help automate that, but also then look at their career prospects for what else you could do with it. So hopefully that was helpful to understand a bit more around, is Power BI good for your career? If you found this video helpful, please press that like button. If you'd like to hear more of what I have to share, hit the subscribe and look through the videos in my channel, and I'll put those links in the notes to this video below. I'll see you next time.